Welcome back to the GreenLight Investor for the week ending March 18th, 2016. Our goal at the GreenLight Investor is to provide a unique resource to make managing your 401k both a simple and easy process. We do this with a worksheet that uses red, green, and yellow cells to help you decide when to buy, what to buy, and when to sell. This presentation is for informational and educational purposes only and should not be taken as personal investment advice. I'll be using examples, and that's exactly what they are. They're examples of how you can use this worksheet to help manage fund choices within your 401k. Always refer to your own investment policy to make certain that the choices you're making are appropriate for both your investment time horizon as well as your understanding and acceptance for taking risk in financial markets. Alright, let's go ahead and go right to our worksheet. Each week this worksheet is updated. It's available on our website as well as by email if you'd like to get a copy of it. On the left side we have the investment choices available to you in your 401k. The different column headings include the fund number, the symbol, the fund name, and a brief description of the fund. As we scroll down, you'll see that we start out with the core investments. These are the index funds at the top. Then we go into the satellite investments, which start out with the more conservative investment choices at the top, which are the money market funds, the fixed income. Then we go down to the U.S. growth and income funds, the U.S. equity funds, international, and finally we'll go to our sector funds. Center section, we update the performance of each of the funds every week. The different columns that we update include the closing price, the month-to-date return, the quarter-to-date return, and the year-to-date return. This is important so you can keep track of which funds are performing well and stay with momentum if you'd like. It also lets you compare the fund choices you're currently in to the different funds available in each of the categories to make sure you're staying with some of the stronger ones and, more importantly, avoiding the ones that are becoming very weak. And on the right side we have what I believe is the most unique part of this worksheet, and that's the current weekly trends. Down column V, each week we're going to update the relative strength of each of the funds. When you see a bright green light, these are the funds that have been the strongest on a week-over-week basis. And when you see a bright red light, these are the funds that have performed relatively poorly compared to the other funds available to you. To the right of column V, in column W, each week we're going to assign a trend score, a numerical value, to each of the funds, and that's going to show its relative strength compared to other funds. When you see a green light with a yellow dot, that means it's transitioning from a red to a yellow to a green. When you see a green cell with a green check mark, that means that it's showing significant strength and is showing a positive trend that could be developing. We generally like to see 2 weeks, such as has happened here, to see that a trend may be developing. Here we saw a blip, but we're seeing this confirmed with the yellow check. As we scroll down, we're seeing there's funds that have had 7 weeks now and a bright green light. So there's definitely a trend developing in the international bond funds. We're seeing a lot of red lights, but what's interesting is a lot of these trend scores are becoming less negative in the equity funds. In the U.S. equities, we are seeing a few of the funds starting to turn over to green lights, and they are showing bullish long-term trends, which is shown in column U. This is the start of what could be a sustainable trend. If you're an early, aggressive investor, you can start to take a position in these funds a little bit early. If you're more conservative, you're going to give up a little of the return if the trend develops. But if the trend does continue, you'll get a little bit more reward for taking that risk. In international funds, we're continuing to see red, but again, we're seeing the same trend where the trend score, the numerical value, is becoming less negative. And finally, down in the sector funds, we are seeing that there's two bullish signs, long-term trends, as well as two green lights with a green check. What that's showing to me is that there's a definite trend in place that could be sustainable, and these are worth investing. Let's go ahead and move to the top of our worksheet. And with that brief introduction, let's see how we can use this information to make fund choices within your 401k. To do so, let's go to View, Custom Views, and My Current. We'll click Show, and we'll see that we'd like to be 100% invested in these funds. Now, to make choices, we'll simply use this slider, and we'll go over so we can see our GreenLight selection. In the most important columns to make a basic decision is column U, which is our long-term trend. That's one of the most important columns to look at. We always like to stay with the long-term trend. We'll look at the week-over-week trend, and we'll see which funds are performing strongly. And then in column W, we like to see the numerical values turning positive, as well as showing green lights, and generally 2 weeks are what we'd like to see what is potentially a sustainable trend score. So as we go down here, we're seeing that we'd like to have a 10% allocation, and what we'll be looking for is to see the long-term trend turn bullish, as well as 2 weeks of positive green lights. We're not seeing that yet, but we'll want to be on alert for that, possibly as early as next week. As we scroll down to the fixed income, we're seeing we have a 10% allocation to this income fund, which is continuing to perform, so there's nothing to do in this one. As we scroll down, our U.S. equity funds, we'd like to have a 30% allocation. We currently have 0, but here's one that is developing. We're seeing a trend that's developing positive. We'd like to see one more green light in the column W, so we'll wait another week, but this one could potentially have 3 choices in the U.S. equities as early as next week. The international funds, we'd like to have 25%. Right now, we're not seeing any long-term trends turn bullish, and we're still waiting for the relative strength to strengthen in this. And finally, in our sector funds, we'd like to have a 20% allocation. We're seeing 2 funds that are available. With this, I'm going to go ahead and take a 10% allocation to this, and to do so, we're going to have to take 10% of the capital out of our money market fund to be able to make this transfer. So to do so, we'll go from 90 to 80% in here, and that balances out our allocations. One thing to remember is that when we allocate here, it's just a reminder of how our funds are actually allocated within the fund program. To make changes to this, you'll have to go to your website within your company plan, make the changes, and then allocate this accordingly. This will keep track of how the funds are doing that you've picked, particularly with the relative strength, which is the unique feature of this worksheet. With that said, we've made our allocations. We now have 20% in this market, and as we check to see if it's gaining strength in a number of different sectors and different categories, we'll go ahead and make the allocations as the market shows us some strength. Let's go ahead and go back to our main view, which is with the performance columns. And here we have it. That's what I've got for this week. I hope it's been helpful and gives you some ideas and resources to make fund choices within your 401k. If you'd like to get a copy of this worksheet, you can go to our website, or you can send me an email, and I'd be happy to put you on our mailing list, as well as answer any particular questions you may have on how you can use this worksheet to make fund choices within your 401k. I'd like to thank you for taking a few moments out of your weekend to watch this presentation. I hope it's been helpful. And again, if you have any questions whatsoever, please feel free to contact me at this email. Thanks again for watching. Have a great weekend.